Now it's old Yeller, Biden's private fury. The private eruptions painted a more complicated picture of Biden as a manager and president than his carefully cultivated image as a kindly uncle who loves aviator sunglasses and ice cream. That's the scoop from Axios this morning. Yes, the 180 is odd. The language Axios quotes President Biden is using cannot be repeated here on family-friendly television. It involves a word that starts with F and are preceded or followed by various phrases. Fine. The president using salty language is only about a tenth of the story. The bigger part is why. Not why he is cursing at his staff, but why we're hearing about it now. The White House evidently isn't upset with the news. More from Alex Thompson's excellent reporting at Axios. Some Biden aides think the president would be better off occasionally displaying his temper in public as a way to assuage voters' concerns that the 80-year-old president is disengaged and too old for the office. It's almost like the White House wants us to know about Mr. Biden's dark side. In public, he goes to the beach like all the rest of us. He's just grandpa who takes his shirt off during the weekend at the beach. Then he heads up the stairs of Air Force One to represent America abroad. But don't worry, according to a new report, he has a temper of a lion. The juicy White House gossip just dropped just after a devastating piece by Maureen Dowd of the New York Times. It's 7 grandkids, Mr. President, she writes. This is Maureen Dowd in the New York Times. It's an opinion piece eviscerating the president over Hunter Biden's daughter with a former stripper. The Biden should embrace the life Hunter brought into the world, even if he didn't consider her mother, quote, the dating type. This is more from Maureen Dowd's column. The president's cold shoulder, quoting her, and heart, is counter to every message he has sent for decades. And, quote, it's out of sync with the America he, meaning Joe Biden, wants to continue to lead. But the Axios reporting leads us to believe how Mr. Biden wants us to see him in public versus how he acts in private is very different. In other words, who is the real Joe Biden? Axios' Alex Thompson is with us now. I feel like we need to have some scoops of ice cream here on the set for you. Congratulations. Look, I don't want to get into your sourcing or anything like that, but am I on to something that there are 2 Joe Bidens?
100%. Joe Biden was elected to be senator at 29 years old. This is a man who has been in the public eye for well over 50 years. He has a well-honed shtick, right? And that is, I am folksy. I'm going to talk about the long walk up the stairs. I'm going to talk about how, a job is more than a paycheck. I am like before he was a kindly uncle, he was, a kindly dad.
He was the dad who rode Amtrak every day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So look, you have all of this reporting from a White House that never leaks. That is a tenet of the Biden White House. They don't leak. Back in the Trump days, we could play every staffer off each other. You can't do that anymore. Why is this coming out now?
Well, I'd say 2 things. First, I'd say that this reporting did take place over a few months and was not the easiest to get. But to your point, that they didn't really fight back on the record against any of the data points I suggested. And, I don't think, the White House is very well aware that when you're looking at voter concerns, when you're looking at polling, the biggest concern is people are worried about his age. They don't think he is engaged. They think, that he just is too old for the job and might die in office. These are real concerns that the White House political office is really trying to figure out how can we do it. Now that you've seen them try to joke about the age. He's talked about, I have wisdom. And that's been a new thing the last few weeks. But, one thing that really could help, to your point, can you show a little bit of temper? When he, insulted, Fox News' Pete Ducey.
We have that. Take a listen.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a...
Okay, it was funny at the time. I'm old enough to remember when attacking reporters was a threat to democracy. Mm-hmm. And I guess the question is, what image does the White House want the American people to have of the president?
I mean, this is sort of the conundrum they're facing because the one they've been putting forward, clearly voters have significant concerns about.
Right.
And so, and also the one they've been putting forward is different than the private one. So do you just let, if you're being kind about it, do you let Biden be Biden, right? And like all the foibles that come with that, including this big temper that, to your point, they have been very close-knit about sort of hiding this part of Joe Biden from the public.
But hold on, more of your reporting, and we didn't make a full screen for it, but it talked about how one of the things he gets very angry about is when he feels like he's being briefed by people who don't know as much as he does, on and on and on. The flip side of that is the leak, the implicit thing is he's the smartest guy in the room. The White House wants everybody to believe that this is a guy who knows his brief so well that if you're not super prepared, he's going to cuss you out. Come on.
Yes, I mean, the Biden defenders and apologists that we, quote in the piece basically say, this is a guy that's being very meticulous on behalf of the American people. I would say the people that, in some ways, felt very insulted by some of his tirades, what they will say is that, this is a guy that has a chip on his shoulder, that didn't get into an Ivy League, that had a stutter as a kid and always felt stupid, and is trying to really make sure that everyone knows in the room that he's the smartest guy there.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.